Hello, San Francisco, and welcome once again to the Angelic Troublemakers. I'm your host, Alan Jones, and on today's program, thank you, Mr. President. I am bringing you this program because of the fact that this week, uh, President Donald Trump did something that really irritates me. And contrary to most of my programs, I'm not easily irritated. However, in May, President Donald Trump gave a posthumous pardon to someone, and we're going to talk about prison reform. Now, I believe God put me on this earth for prison reform. And this website I've had for, I think, 7 or 8 years. And on this website, it has a whole bunch of prison reform stuff. And it's because of my years up at the San Francisco Juvenile Hall and my activism for prison reform. I believe, based on all of the signs and things that I've come in contact with, that my calling on this earth has to do with prison reform. So why am I saying thank you, Mr. President? Well, he proved once again we need prison reform. Now, in this website, there's all kind of stuff. But if you notice where it says Good Neighbor Coalition, Keep the Warriors in Oakland, on my prison reform website, which is called casegame.squarespace.com. If you go to casegame, one word, casegame.squarespace.com, you will find this website. And the Good Neighbor Coalition, which is my ballot measure, Prop I, vote yes on Prop I, you will see down here at the bottom it says, below the Keep the Warriors in Oakland, it says this is gonna be huge for prison reform, even though the subject is not about prison reform. What am I saying? I am saying that my ballot measure is about shenanigans at San Francisco City Hall, but it is going to help me with my ultimate goal, which is prison reform. Now, I'm going to bring in the president and why he irritated me. Now, if you notice this, I'll slide this over, and let me see if I can get this bigger. Well, what we have here is Donald Trump is touting the pardon of a boxer by the name of Jack Johnson. Notice at the bottom where it says a pardon arrives 105 years too late. Well, he is using the office of the presidency to pardon certain people, which I don't have a problem with. However, if you notice to the right of the screen in the back is actor Sylvester Stallone. On one side, he's the one who pushed for this pardon. of a man who's been dead since 1946, even though his crime was committed in, oh, excuse me, alleged crime. It was a sham. We'll get to that. Uh, though he died in 1946, his conviction was 1913, 105 years ago. What was his crime? He brought a white woman cross state line. It was called the Mann Act. And it was against the law for a black man to take a white woman across the state line. Well, that's what they got him on. Who is boxing legend Jack Johnson? Well, he was the first black heavyweight champion of the world, and he was not treated right. So in touting this posthumous pardon, I smell a rat. Why is it that the President of the United States, and on the left, there's this woman who's a relative of the late Jack Johnson, and she's been pushing for his pardon for years. And I don't have a problem against pardoning somebody posthumously. However, I think that the president is doing it for ulterior motives. He's in a lot of hot water. Now let me show you another screen. Well, we all know who this person is. It's Kim Kardashian. Now, why in the world? Well, let me state this. For all of us who have criticized Kim Kardashian one way or another, we don't know what she has done to be famous, but she sure is famous. She got in the audience with the president. Well, that's not a sin. And Lord knows there's a lot of people who would like to get a audience with the president. But read Donald Trump's tweet. This is from his Twitter account. Great meeting with at Kim Kardashian today. Talked about prison reform and sentencing. Now hold on. When you say talked about prison reform and sentencing, I may be nitpicking, but prison reform and sentencing is a part of prison reform. So if he had just said, we're talking about prison reform, okay, maybe he knows the subject. But for him to say prison reform and sentencing, I'm thinking, well, he don't know what he's doing. He's using celebrity to try and get something going with his pardoning. And I'm saying that the President of the United States is using his office to set the stage for pardoning some of his friends in high places. Why is Kim Kardashian there? She, don't have the photo, she is trying to lobby the president for the deserved pardon of a 62-year-old black woman who has been in prison for quite some time as a first-time offender. And Kim Kardashian learned about her on Twitter, and she went to work trying to get this woman out of prison. Now, I believe that the woman will get a pardon from the president. However, on the day that many thought that the president was going to grant this black woman who's alive, 63 years old, and it was her birthday, a pardon. No. What did he do? He pardoned a guy named Dinesh D'Souza. Now, I'm not going to get into who Dinesh D'Souza is, but I will say one thing. Thank you, Mr. President, because you are showing me why I know that we need prison reform. Now, in this pardon of this man, just happened this week, the president said he was done unfairly by the United States. Well, you could say that about 1 million people who are in prison. But this particular person has a high profile in the Republican Party and has really gotten under the skin of a lot of people. What crime did he commit? Something to do with campaign finance fraud or something like that. He admitted to doing something illegal, and the president said he was mistreated by the U.S. government. Give me a break. One of the things also that has come out from this situation is the president is teasing with the idea that he may pardon Martha Stewart. We all know who Martha Stewart is. She lied to the federal government and served a few months in prison for it. And a name that you may not know of, Rod Blagojevich. Rod Blagojevich was governor of the state of Illinois. And when Barack Obama became president, the governor, he was a senator, Barack Obama was a senator in Illinois, the governor tried to sell the Senate seat that Barack Obama once held. Well, you can't do that. You can't do it legally. And what had happened was Rod Blagojevich, who was the governor of Illinois, went to prison for it. And he's thinking on pardoning him. Now, these are people who have big crimes. Martha Stewart's not really a fan of Donald Trump, by what I read. But these high-profile people that he's pardoning, because a lot of his friends, as you've heard the news, are getting indicted, one gone to jail. Excuse me. You've heard the name Scooter Libby. Well, he was in the Bush era. They did some, I don't remember what the crime he pleaded guilty to, but he received a pardon from the president. So this president is going around doing all of this stuff about, oh, these people, they deserve a second chance. And he's setting the stage for if some of his people are going to be under the same criminal conviction issues. Now, let's go back to my ballot measure. Not my ballot measure, my website, sorry. My website is casegame.squarespace. But in the year 2000, I developed a new clemency process. Now, there's clemency for the state and there's clemency federal. Now, the president has the power to grant clemency or pardon, forgiveness of any federal crimes. But in the state of California, there's a process also to where a person can win a pardon from the governor. It gets tricky because if it's a certain crime, there's three judges that have to, weigh in on it and stuff like that. Well, I came up with the idea when the original version of the three strikes law came about. In the year 2000, I heard a interview on the well-respected 60 Minutes program. I don't know whether it was Morley Safer or whoever it was, but they were grilling the governor at the time, whose name is Gray Davis, California governor, for why a man was serving a 25-year to life prison sentence for stealing a bicycle. And so the governor was trying to justify the 25 years for stealing a bicycle, 25 years to life, meaning he had to do 25 years before he even thought that he could have gotten out on parole or even be considered for parole. Well, I stared at the television and I said to myself in a whisper, the governor has too much power. Now, then I went researching the pardon process and found out an awful lot of very interesting things about the history of pardons. And then I put together this ballot measure. And I was getting some people to notice it. And I wanted to send it up the flagpole. And I went to some very famous attorneys. And they said, yeah, well, there might be something here. And I knew I had something. Then we had 9/11. And after 9/11, boom, just like a rock falling out of the sky, I got nothing on this. I could not climb back up. And for this particular measure, because it was a California issue, I would have needed millions of dollars to get this going. Well, we're 18 years later. I still believe that it was God that put this in my heart. And so it's just laying around on a website, if I can pull my website up again, and this, oh well, I lost it. Oh well. But this measure will create a new clemency process in the state of California to take power from the governor and judges under the state California Constitution by a constitutional amendment and give that power to you and me, the people of California. Now, how is this going to work? Well, that's why I have the ballot measure. On hold. This issue is where, briefly, you have 5 individuals. They receive a request. Somebody is petitioned the California Clemency Board for, which is what I call it, a pardon or clemency. And the 5-member panel in each county, meaning if the person was sent to prison in San Francisco County, the people of San Francisco County would hear his case. Because logically, the person's most likely to come back to San Francisco County. Anyway, 5 people who do not know this person will be able to judge whether he is worthy of a pardon. And I say that it'll clear up an awful lot of the prison population to where people will be given new life. And don't think that I'm stupid. I know that there are some people who will be intent on using this process to just go in and out of prison. Well, that can't happen because of how I designed it. So, let's say that bike thief, 25-year sentence, he just says, this is unjust. Well, he would be able to petition the clemency board in his county. And 5 people get around and say, yeah, that is a ridiculous sentence, and grant him clemency and let him go. Why is this better? Number one, when you look at the high rate of suicides amongst staff, prison staff, it's because of the pressure of the job. So by relieving all of the prisons in California from being overcrowded and having a lot of people in there that don't belong, you're going to help affect people's lives in a positive way. Now, as strangely as this is, there was one gentleman who went to prison 26 years to life in the state of California by the name of Santos Reyes. Please Google his name. He's out of prison now, 11 years in prison, but he got a 26-year to life sentence. Mandatory that he served 26 years before he even thought of parole. Well, what happened? He cheated on his California driving test. That was his 3rd strike. Well, anybody with common sense, 5 people in the county that he's from, could have looked at that situation and says, that's way out of line, and could have granted him a pardon based on the ridiculousness of the conviction. And so there's a whole host of things that I say that this new clemency process will help alleviate pressure. But how is it going to get started? Because people like Donald Trump are using his power, as the Constitution gave him the power, to grant clemency to anyone. He's using it to grant clemency to a whole bunch of famous people and one dead black man. Give me a break. I'm saying that if we do this in California, it'll catch on. And it'll only be a matter of time where citizens will see that this works, and they will demand a federal clemency board. And so I say, thank you, Mr. President, because the shenanigans that you're doing right now in pardoning some people who really don't need to be pardoned is helping me to attain what I believe I was put on this earth for, and that is to use the criminal justice system's most powerful tool. Clemency is the most powerful tool in criminal justice. Because once you get it, no matter what crime you've committed, if you're granted clemency, no one can touch you. So, by using the most powerful tool in the criminal justice system and taking it from the government's hand and putting it into the citizens' control, I think is a better way to handle it. Because I can guarantee you, you get 5 people in a room and you have some child molester who thinks that he deserves a pardon, he ain't gonna get no, or she ain't gonna get no pardon on a charge like that. But if he's a friend of the president, they may. Because I'll tell you, one of the things that people think is just un-American is to not pay your taxes. Well, we had a president by the name of Bill Clinton, and he pardoned a donor of his who was a billionaire. This billionaire was hiding in Switzerland because he was going to be charged and sent to prison in America. What was his crime? Cheating on his taxes. He owed a whole bunch of money in taxes. Well, he got a pardon. Well, how is it that you cheating the government out of millions of dollars and you get a pardon? We can't be pardoning people's friends left and right just because you're an elected official and sprinkle in, some dead man's posthumous pardon. Again, don't get me wrong, I'm not criticizing the president for granting this particular pardon. I mean, my goodness, 105 years later, I would like to see the president on the birthday of this woman who's been in prison as a first-time offender, 20 years, grant her a pardon before a dead man any day. Beautiful woman. She has grace. She's really held up in prison from the photo I've seen of her. She's done well to rehabilitate herself. And who gets the pardon first? A dead man. This is not right. And the reason why he did this was because he was friends with Sylvester Stallone, actor. And these other pardons that are coming his way, these people aren't even going through the process. There is in the Department of Justice somewhere or an Office of Pardons. They're bypassing it. So people can just go to this particular president, hey, my friend needs a pardon, and they're rich and famous, they're going to get one. Doesn't make sense to me. What does make sense is there's an awful lot of evidence to suggest that not only President Trump, but all presidents should be relieved of the power to grant a pardon. Because I'm telling you that these people who need these pardons and have been done wrong are coming back to our communities. And if we are the ones who are going to be getting them back to our communities, let us have a say-so. And I guarantee you, after I'm finished with Proposition I, it might even be a year down the line. But I'm going to be able to say, thank you, Mr. President, because you're making my job much easier to get a new clemency system. Until next time, God bless and vote yes on Proposition I.